Would Anthony Joshua beat Daniel Dubois in a rematch? Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to On Me Head, son. I hope you're all well. So this is a prediction, an early prediction. If the fight between Joshua and Dubois ever happens, the rematch, Joshua Dubois 2, will it happen? Now, if you've seen my videos recently, I've basically said, look, this is the only fight for Anthony Joshua. He has to take this fight. He has to push for this fight to claw back that credibility. For Daniel Dubois, well, if he's waiting on an Usyk-Fury fight, let's say, then he's got options out there. He's got lots of options. But the money fight, the definite money fight for him is against Joshua. Let's not forget, Joshua is still the pay-per-view star. He's the one that people want to watch, especially over the last year. Now, granted, he came up short against Daniel Dubois, well short. Daniel Dubois just excelled in every department. So the question is, would there be an appetite to want to watch this fight again? Especially the way Daniel Dubois demolished Anthony Joshua. Now, there are lots of commentators out there, lots of pundits, and lots of YouTube channels, I'm sure, who are basically saying, look, Joshua, just hang up your boots, hang up your gloves, that's it, done. Take your millions, just go away and just, go and get an allotment or something, go and grow some flowers or whatever. What they don't want to see is Joshua back in the ring. Now, for Joshua, he's basically saying, I'm a warrior. I want to carry on. So who are we to tell a fighter to stop fighting? Now, I don't believe he's at that stage where we should be telling him out of concern for his health and well-being. Yes, he got a battering there, but I still think he's got a lot to offer, and I still think that he could pose a big problem for many of the top 10 fighters out there. So the question is, would he be able to pose a problem for Daniel Dubois? And then would he be able to pose a problem for Usyk and Fury? And that question still needs to be answered for me. I still believe that people will really want to watch those fights, will really want to see how Joshua will do in those fights against Fury and Usyk, let's say. But the first hurdle has got to be Dubois. So let's get back to the earlier question. Will Joshua beat Daniel Dubois in a rematch? We can all agree that Joshua and his team and his coaches got it completely wrong. Tactically, absolutely wrong. In my previous video talking about his low hands, that was a tactic, I believe, to invite Daniel Dubois. But the point is, Daniel Dubois closed the range, closed the distance too quick, and Joshua just kept himself within range too much, and he just kept on getting caught. The point is, can he learn from that? Would he learn from that? Well, if you take the Andy Ruiz fight, for example, he was very convincing. Yeah, a bit of a dull affair in terms of the rematch, but he worked him out. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Yes, Andy Ruiz came in like the Pillsbury Doughboy, of course, in that fight, but nonetheless, he kind of worked him out. When Joshua went up against Usyk, and he was, well, thoroughly beaten on the first fight, but in the second fight, I believe that he did a lot better. He still lost, but he had a slightly different game plan. He tried to take it to Usyk, and yes, there were times there where you thought, okay, he could do something here. Before the Dubois fight, I was convinced that if Joshua went in the ring with Usyk again, because of the time that's passed, and because of the growth of Joshua, and because of the way Usyk has been fighting as well, I would say that not necessarily that Joshua would beat Usyk, but it would be a lot closer. It would be a lot closer. But he had to get in the ring with Dubois. And Dubois taught him a valuable lesson. A valuable lesson in make sure you're not complacent when you've got a hungry fighter who's coming right towards you. And also make sure you can be adaptable, change tactics on the fly if needs must. And that's exactly what Joshua and neither the coaching team were able to do. Can he do it again, though? Can he turn this around? Can he learn from those mistakes? A few people I heard last week were talking about Joshua may have purposely done this, and I don't believe this for one second. I think that's absolute nonsense. But there's a kind of logic there in that Joshua may have been feeling out Dubois just to see, okay, what have you got? His tactics were just to see what he's got for the first few rounds, and then take over in the 4th and the 5th and get him out of there in the 6th or the 7th round. But the tactics backfired on him. But the initial game plan, just to see how Dubois would come at him and how he would react against Joshua's tactics, let's say, that is something that they'll probably hold on to. Now they've got data. They got data on Daniel Dubois, like they really needed it, of course. But they got a lot more data, and they know exactly how Daniel Dubois is going to fight. They know he's only going to fight one way. And they need to adapt and change their tactics and come up with a much better game plan to go up against Daniel Dubois. Like he did against Andy Ruiz and like he did against Usyk, although albeit he lost, he fared a lot better. I believe in the second fight, Joshua would do a lot better. It would not be the same fight. I'm 100% convinced that my opinion would be that it would not be the same fight. It would not be dominated. Now, I believe he'll probably keep him out of range, out of distance. He'll probably rely heavily on the jab. His footwork would improve a lot more. He'd be circling around and he would make Daniel Dubois throw and miss and tire himself out. That would be the game plan. This was supposed to be the game plan for this fight. It just completely got it wrong. I believe he'll learn from that, and that's what his game plan will be for next time out. So on the basis of that, I believe it'll be a much closer fight. But there's one problem here. One problem is, what's Daniel Dubois going to do? Well, he's probably going to go in and say, well, obviously, I've done that to him last time, and Joshua's going to come up with a different game plan. I'm going to have to change the way I'm fighting, possibly, or be prepared for a different kind of fight and for a different kind of Joshua. Don Charles, Dubois' coach, was on the radio the other night, and they were saying, yeah, if we have to fight Joshua again, yeah, we're definitely going to have to improve. It won't be the same fight. We're definitely going to have to change the way we do things as well. They are acknowledging this. So it's going to be a different fight. It's not going to be the same thing over again. I certainly can't see it. If it is the same fight again, then you'll definitely get a call from me for Joshua to hang up his gloves. You really shouldn't fight anymore because he can't be at that top table. And there's no sight so sad to see a once roaring lion stuck behind a cage and not being able to do anything. This would be the same for Joshua. Once the powerhouse of the heavyweight division, and then he's going to be subject to fighting top 10, top 15 heavyweights, just going for the purses. Well, look, there'll be some great fights out there. There'll be some big money fights out there as well. But outside of the Riyadh fight card, I don't think there'll be many fights for him if he loses. If he wins, he's right back in there. He's right back at the top. So when they were talking about rolling the dice during the last fight, actually, now they're rolling the dice. They need to go in there, roll the dice. This is only one fight they can go. They have to go for Dubois. I think it'll be a much closer fight. I think they'll be tactically more astute, and they're going to be more aware of Daniel Dubois and also how to manage that and how to keep him at range and counter with a lot more effectiveness as well. I'm convinced of it, but that doesn't mean it'll be successful. It just means it'll probably be a different fight. It'll probably be a closer fight. I get the impression that Joshua definitely wants this fight. I also get the impression that Eddie Hearn doesn't want this fight. He's concerned for Anthony Joshua. I don't think he's ready for it. Yes, he's talking about, Joshua and Fury, but that fight isn't there. It makes no sense to have Fury against Joshua. I can just see Fury saying, well, he couldn't even beat Dubois. He's not going to be able to beat me. And, we'd be back to the same old nonsense again. Joshua has to put himself in pole position so that Usyk or Fury cannot refuse him. And right now, they can easily refuse him. Whereas if he beats Dubois in the next fight, all of a sudden, he's in the conversation, and a conversation that cannot be ignored. Would he beat Dubois? I think they'd be ready for Joshua. I think they'd come up with a game plan. I know Don Charles was on TalkSport the other night, being quite vociferous about his anger and his sort of disdain for a lot of the commentators, and he's given it to them both barrels as well. But I feel that he feels they've got the game plan to work out Joshua. Joshua and Ben Davison and now got to get their heads together and make sure that they've got a game plan that will be able to overcome Daniel Dubois. I believe they got the tools in the bag to do this. It's whether they can execute it. And I was really so surprised, just as, you know, 90% of the people out there were so surprised how Joshua didn't execute that game plan, who wasn't able to do what he probably set out to do. And probably just as surprised at what Daniel Dubois was able to do with him as well. Now, could be, that's it, you know, whatever we're saying makes no difference because Joshua could be finished. That's it. It could just be that he's been having these 4 fights, these last 4 fights, and really, then they weren't really stiff opposition, like a lot of people have been saying. You know, who has he fought in the last 4 fights? Whereas Dubois fought Hrgovic and he fought Jarrell Miller. You know, these are proper boxers. You know, in top 5, top 10 boxers. Who are these other guys? I can see it. But it's very easy to say this after the event as well. And also, a lot of people saying it before the event. But you can't really say that with conviction because it's just an opinion. This is what I'm saying now about Joshua. Yeah, my opinion is that he'll come back with a better tactical game plan. I believe that he'll come in and it'll be a much tighter fight. I don't believe it'll be the same kind of fight. I think it'll be a very similar fight to Joshua against Ruiz 2. That's what I'm thinking. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But do you think Joshua has a chance, any chance, against Daniel Dubois in a rematch? Or do you think it's just going to be the same again? It's just going to be a demolition job for Daniel Dubois. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for all future videos. And I will catch you again on another video coming very soon. Bye now.